Welcome to Blood Wolf Arts Studio, and I'm your host, Mr. Moonlight. So, this first video is going to be going over the introduction of my first book, and this video will be going into a little bit of the context that surrounded the creation of that first poem, and essentially started unexpectedly my entire series, which I am currently on my third book now. And I've been writing for 18 years now. So when this first poem was written, I was 14 years old, almost 15. It was 2007, and ironically, I actually have a journal from that time. That was about when I started writing in my journal. I started keeping a journal, and so I have a record from what was going on in my mind at the time. And I've just been looking through some of my journals to catch up to speed on what was going through my head at this time. And I don't have a crystal clear date, but it was in 2007, and it seems like it was closer to the warmer months. I remember I was focusing on getting married already. Because in the culture, I had started looking at getting married or thinking about who I was going to marry when I was 8 years old. In fact, I think I was probably 7. Because that's when it starts getting put into your head in the DCCS and the culture of the LDCC. I had been in high school for about a year, and there used to be a high school on the farm I grew up on, but at this point the school had pretty well shut down and I was in a virtual high school, so I was navigating a lot of that, and I was really starting to focus in on my dreams, because also in the culture that's a big indicator and one of the big things you look to when you're looking at getting married is who are you dreaming about, what are the dreams, what do they mean. Like, that's a huge thing in the DCCS, in the culture. And actually one of my first entries from my journal is about dreams I was having about myself getting married and other people I knew getting married. And there's definitely a lot to that. It's kind of a curious mindset when I think about it now, because my mindset is a bit different, but some things are still the same. Like one of the dreams I had, the person that got married, they actually did get married in a similar fashion as they did in the dream. So that was interesting. But that's just a big part of a lot of the spiritual beliefs and a lot of the cultural beliefs. And so around that time, then I was a fresh teenager. I had started hitting puberty. Had no idea really what was going on. That's something that also is not talked about in the culture. There's a lot of focus on purity culture. People don't talk about sex and puberty and that thing. It's just focus on getting married, and then it's like all that stuff will just come afterwards. So there's not a lot of education on that. And so that's something I was struggling with. Figuring it out by myself, because I didn't really have any support. Dad wasn't really home a lot, working real hard, supporting the 3 families, and just like a couple dozen children. And I wasn't sure where to go with it. There was a lot of shame surrounding sexuality and that kind of expression. And like there's no dating in the culture. You basically date after you get engaged to who you're supposed to marry. And I was not coping very well, and that was one of the things I started to develop, was a pornography addiction. And so that addiction had just started to fester. I'd already had for me, what I've come to find over the years was some pretty deep life-altering experiences I'd gone through. Somewhere along the way, some of these I'll go into, some more than others. And so that had already been an addiction that had already started to form, and it started to, the seeds were planted, and nobody knew about it, because again, there's a lot of shame around it. So nobody knew what was going on really, and there was a lot of stuff just really festering. And that ended up being something that stuck with me for a long time, until I finally was able to do a lot of work over the years and work through a lot of that, and start developing a healthy sense of self and a lot of healthy sense of sexual expression and creative expression and all of that. And so this first poem I wrote, I feel like it captures a lot of the direction, focus that the culture actually shapes and the people are molded by. Because in the culture, there's not a lot of focus on self and self-discovery. It's more just fit into the culture, fit into the one over you, trust that they're gonna have your life plan laid out for you. There's arranged marriages. You know, your life plan gets laid out for you, and you supposedly have a choice, but there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that when you start digging into it, you don't actually really have a lot of choice. You're just kind of guided a certain way, and you think it's your idea. And so there's a lot of focus on other people being of service, and there's a lot of self-neglect that happens. And so this first poem is titled Helping Others, and it will be getting posted on my TikTok channel, and that's the way that this is going to go back and forth. Is I'm going to be posting something on my TikTok after I post something on my YouTube channel that's going to provide the context for each poem, a little bit of the background going on. And one other thing about this poem is this one was written pretty separate from the rest of them. As I was looking back through my records, because everything's dated, all my poems are dated. This one was written actually 2 years before I started picking this up. This was something I picked up in high school that I started to recognize this was something I could do and that I felt really like I was really good at, and that seemed to flow really naturally for me. So it was like this kind of came out. I don't remember exactly why I wrote it. I just remember sitting in my room one day and I just decided to write a poem, and I don't remember much more than that. And then it sat for a couple years. But I'll get into a little bit more of that in my next video that'll be coming out next week as I go into the next poem. And I will also be saying the dates of the poems as they come out, as they were created. And this one, it just says 2007. That's all it says. And so I was 14, thereabouts, when I wrote this. So thank you for listening, and I will see you over on TikTok and in my next video. Thank you.